Take them.
Thanks for that.
Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum, peace be upon you, and welcome to this home stretch of Ramadan Salam Cafe episode. Whew. Well, that broke my fastest with that mouthful. Without further ado, let's welcome the other panel members. I'll start at this end this time.
Walaikum salam.
How's the home stretch of Ramadan treating you?
It's treating me very well, actually. It's kind of sad it's finishing, actually.
It is sad. You've been going to the mosque?
I have been every night going to the mosque. It's much easier this year, of course, because it's the sun sets earlier, so it's been very good.
So what are you at the mosque for? Extra prayers?
Yeah, that's
Socialising.
right.
Good one.
And socialising.
And I can hardly see you there. My husband's big fat head's in the way.
Assalamu
alaikum. How are you going?
How are you going?
And how's the last 10 days of Ramadan going for you?
Not bad. This time of the year is cake making.
Ooh.
So all the smells filtering through the house and everyone with dough in their fingers. We wash our hands first, obviously. And yeah, good stuff.
Nice.
We have containers and containers. Our laundry shelves are filled with cakes.
What sort of cakes?
Lots of little traditional ones, and basically we have it ready there for guests over the next month
Eid
when
cakes?
we start celebrating.
Like
Eid cakes.
So is this a Malaysian tradition, is it, to have...
Most Malay families
Have cake.
have special cakes and biscuits.
African ones have it too.
I'm sure a lot
I think
of
we'll be
cultures-
visiting our Malaysian friend's house.
A bake-off and a
Yeah, you
cake-off.
should.
But they're all different. Every nationality has their own different
That's right.
thing.
Yeah, Aussies make Anzac
We should
biscuits.
have a Salam Cafe to go on Eid in different cultures on Eid and check out the different celebrations.
We've got about
and have
12
people
Salam
do.
Cafe to go ideas that we said we'd do and we haven't
Yeah,
done
I'm
them.
still waiting to do my kung fu. Anyway,
We're still waiting.
how's Ramadan last 10 days proceeding?
Just before that, I think I have quite a small head.
Sorry.
No, it's going very well, but I'm struggling in the mornings. I just getting up to, because what we often do is before, like well before sunrise, we're allowed to eat. Just we sneak in a meal just before we have to start fasting, and struggling
Struggling to get up? Or
to
eat?
get up with enough coherence to be able to get food into my mouth.
Actually, I have to attest that Waleed is a maniac.
Well, you should live in India, because in India, in the morning, before sahur, first they start off with the drums for about half an hour, screaming to wake up. Then that's followed by the firecrackers.
So it's like 2 hours before it's
It's a
No,
happy
so
country.
if you're not Muslim, you're pretty annoyed by the end of the day.
you move for that month to another country.
Yeah, I think so.
It was great when I was a kid, though, because when I was really little and just sort of started fasting, actually, no, for a long time, until probably about 450 uni, Dad used to come in and try to wake me up, but it was just so hopeless that what he'd do is basically get the Weet-Bix ready, and he didn't literally do this, but for all intents and purposes he did. Basically put a funnel in my mouth and just send it down. And that's basically how I survived for quite a while.
Parental commitment.
It is. So I've got a great man, my dad. Without him, I'd probably not be here.
What about you guys? How do you wake up for suhoor?
Well, these days I wake up pretty early. I think when in Australia I used to have a hard time, but when I was overseas, when I was like on my own with no mum and dad, I'd become more aware. I would even wake up before the alarm clock went off because I'd have to wake up. It's a mindset, I think.
And you're disciplined, I think, as well.
I am now.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Speaking of things totally unrelated, we've got a really exciting Salam Cafe
Are
to
you
go.
going to say hello to Slim? Or are you
Well,
just gonna...
no, time is upon us, so we're going to go to Salam Cafe to go. And I'd thank you not to cut the anchor off. Check it out. We'll be back after this groovy episode.
Hey man, how's it going? Well, I just had something I had to do in the city for uni. That's why I'm in a suit. So I guess while we're here, coincidentally, maybe we should just go talk to some random people about random things. We're in the middle of Ramadan, so I'm kind of hungry, but we can't eat anything. So I guess we're just going to have to see what I can do on an empty stomach. What couldn't you live without for 1 month?
My friend.
Air, oxygen.
Food, drinking, food.
What about water?
Yeah, water as well.
How about 14 hours straight? What couldn't you live without? Food and water?
Probably water.
Bye.
Couldn't give up for 30 days. Music. TV.
Food. Cigarette.
Food.
My iPod.
I suppose a fresh change of undies.
I'm sorry, I don't have time.
My visa card.
Well, you could go without food and water for a month, but you couldn't go very long without oxygen.
That's very true. Do you know where any mosques are in the city of Melbourne?
Yes, I do know, actually.
There's a mosque? Can you show me where that is?
That's where at the moment. The mosque is... there.
Jeffcott Street Mosque. Okay, so that's not too far. Gee, let's just go eat, man. I'm starving. Oh, man, we're fasting. We can't eat. We can't eat. We've got about 4 hours left. It's 2 o'clock, 2:30. We've got 4.5 hours left. So 4 hours left till it's breakfast time. Do you know what Ramadan is?
Yes.
What do you?
The Muslim holy month, yeah.
You're fasting, right?
Fasting between the daylight hours, yes. It's a month of fasting during the day, isn't it?
And do you know what Ramadan is?
No. They're supposed to fast from sunrise to sunset.
And do you know what Ramadan is?
No.
Ramadan is basically a holy month where you sacrifice towards Allah. And basically you go through fasting while eating a big meal in the morning and the day.
Alright, show off. Hi, do you guys have any nasheeds?
Any what, sorry?
Nasheeds.
Nasheed. Not that I'm aware of.
Can I ask you a question? I saw market research. Can I ask you a question? I'll give you money if you ask you a question. And how do you say bye-bye in your language?
Selamat tinggal.
Selamat tinggal. How about, can you say your TV show is the best? Say that.
In Spanish. El programa de televisión es el mejor.
Salam Cafe is the best TV show ever. Can you teach us with a pigeon?
Okay, if you want to say goodbye to a person, you say, look him you behind.
Say what?
Look him you behind.
Look at your behind.
Yeah.
So the people just walk around going...
Funny guy.
Kidding. Alright, so look at your behind.
See you later.
Alright, cool.
Well, that was food for thought, wasn't it? Makes me wonder, though, what I could do with that for 30 days.
I reckon if you weren't a Muslim, that's exactly what you'd say.
Yeah,
that you
food
couldn't
and
do without
water.
food and...
Yeah.
It's the first thing you think
It's an obvious one, isn't it?
So, but it's not that hard. So,
But apart from food and water,
Apart from
what
food
do you
and
reckon?
water, I reckon, well, your sport, footy and cricket, I don't think you could do without.
I struggle. But
And your mobile phone.
mobile phone's fine. I go without it all the time. I think would be my lovely wife.
Mine.
Did I get out of that?
At the risk of sounding like a lazy sod, my car. Yeah.
Couldn't PT it?
I need to drive everywhere. I could try, but trying to get to Springvale by 8:30 every morning, that could be a bit
I
hard.
could do without a car. It'd be good not having a car, not having to drive. Be
Well,
16 again.
I've already outed myself as a complete and utter book nerd, and yes, I know I'm so cool looking, it's probably hard to believe. I don't think I could do without reading any books. I think, actually, if I even had to go for a day without reading, I get kind of twitchy.
Magazine
Withdrawal
doesn't
symptoms.
TV.
I don't think I could go without getting my emails, just checking my emails and just being connected, being connected with the broader
global
world.
community.
That would be hard.
I've got to say, if I wasn't on the net and I couldn't check my emails, I'd have major problems.
Or if you
That's
could,
what you mean,
imagine if you couldn't get on the net and download Salam Cafe.
Imagine,
Could you imagine that?
That is a tragedy.
I don't know how you'd survive.
I don't
That
think
would just be illegal.
Anyway, now that we've
Talked ourselves up.
these tough realities, after the break, we've got a really exciting and special and fantastic guest coming up that will give your soul a good scrub-a-dub-dub. So stay with us. Welcome back to Salam Cafe. Let's take it down a notch because we're going to be talking about something very groovy. Today on the show we have a very exciting guest. She's studied overseas with traditional female Muslim scholars, specialising in the revival of the spiritual tradition in Islam. She now shares her knowledge with both Muslims and non-Muslims in Australia. Please welcome Guru. Sara Sabbagh. Welcome to the show. Light some incense.
Yes.
Sarah, welcome to the show. This isn't the first time we've been graced with your spiritual presence.
No, it wasn't. The last time I came, we were speaking about my educational journey overseas, and now we're speaking about the knowledge that I've gained.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about
the journey.
Yeah, the spiritual, tell us. Ramadan, more than food and drink and stuff?
Well, the subject matter was meant to talk about, is Ramadan, is it based about just abstaining from food and drink? Because that's what people think it is, right? Yeah. When you hear about it, it's abstaining from food and drink and smoking, anything that enters the body from sunrise to sunset. Sounds a bit harsh. Where's the spirituality in that? The idea behind it is that in the Quran, God says that I have prescribed fasting upon you just as I have prescribed it of people before you. So we know, first of all, that fasting is not something new to the Muslims. It's been prescribed to other religions, and we know in Christianity and Judaism, they have their own particular types of fast, including Buddhism and Hinduism. Everyone has a particular type of fasting, and surely the Muslim type of fasting is quite unique. But God goes on to say, so that you may reach a level of God consciousness. So we hear now that he's speaking to us about God piety, God consciousness, and abstaining from food in the same sentence. So we almost have to ask ourselves, what does food have to do with our state of being, our spiritual state?
So what does food have to do with our...
It must be it actually has a lot to do with it, considering the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, less food, less sin. So the idea is overeating has a lot to do with the output of your character. And we do know now, for example, we look at obesity, and we know it's not just about food. We do know now people use food for other reasons.
It's psychological.
Yeah. And we know bulimia and anorexia is not just about trying to fit in.
It's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind. So very much in Islam, it's the same thing. And the idea behind it in the spiritual realm of Islam, the first aspect that a person must conquer if they're traversing the journey of spirituality is in fact their stomach. And in reality, that's actually one of the hardest things.
And for some people, that's a really big hurdle.
Well, it is. Because notice yourself when you're fasting. Because what happens when you're fasting is that your inner self comes out all of a sudden.
I get really grumpy. Well, I must be naturally a grumpy person.
Well,
am I?
Sorry, go on, Sara.
If you take away smoking and you take away caffeine, coffee and tea for a lot of people, they do become grumpy.
It actually brings out the worst in you, to be honest.
Yeah, so where's the spiritual realm and abstaining? The idea is you do bring out the worst in yourself. So the idea behind it is if you bring it out, you realize where you're using food as a comfort. And the idea behind it is to work those issues out one by one. And it's meant to be a spiritual retreat. The month of Ramadan is meant to be a spiritual retreat. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, went on to say in the meaning of the tradition, that God does not need you abstaining from food and drink. That's not the purpose of it. And, of course, the majority of Muslims will stay at that basic level because we know now that the shops that sell the most are the food stores. In the butchers, they're inundated. The restaurants, there are sweet shops because people do see it as a time of what can we have for dinner? You know, what can we have for our morning meal? I know my kids, first thing in the morning they're having ice cream, chocolate, you know, things that they wouldn't think about eating at.
I'm sure it's spiritual chocolate.
But do you think that even though, I think it makes you more appreciative of the fact when you actually have food, like when you see poor people, and even those 40-hour famine, those commercials, you can really relate to them, because I was like starving the other day for food, and when someone says I'm hungry, you like, you know you want to give more. Yeah, you know what hunger's about.
Empathy.
That's a good point in terms of knowing what hunger is, because now dietitians will tell you the way to lose weight is just recognizing when you're hungry, and the majority of people don't eat when they're hungry. So what fasting does, empathy, that's one. If you take away the spiritual realm, empathy, you actually feel, well, what does hunger really feel like? Because the majority of us living in the Western world do not know what hunger feels like. We eat because it's there.
And it's a time for us to listen to our bodies and be more aware of what's happening. And it all ties in, I guess, physically and
that philosophy
spiritually.
you're talking about is consistent with what we hear a lot of these lifestyle gurus talking about, Dr. Phil and Oprah. Don't let the food control you.
We've got Sister Sara.
Dr. Sara. You control the food, or you control your urges. Don't let the opposite occur.
Can you do a southern accent for us?
Y'all.
So, obviously, the Ramadan is about a main aspect is about not eating and drinking, not because that's the point, but because of what it leads us to. But also there's sort of other things that we're meant to do in Ramadan as well. And I'm wondering, what is this the spiritual significance of perhaps, you know, the extra prayers that we're supposed to do in Ramadan. How does that all link back to the spirituality of Islam?
It's as if, you see, God also says to us in the many traditions the Prophet, peace be upon him, has mentioned that in the month of Ramadan, whatever good that you do, no matter how small it is, all of a sudden the reward that you get is multiplied and multiplied. So as if God is saying to us, do extra in this time. We know, He knows it's going to be difficult for us to suppress our inner self, which in the Islamic psychology is called the nafs. Western psychology is called the id, and that is to control that, to control anger, to control lustful desire, to control backbiting, all these things that emerge once you take away food from the equation. So God's also saying to us, I've given you extra prayers to do, and that's what the night prayers are about, the Taraweeh prayers. Extra prayers to do so you can tap into that inner self that bit more.
Would you liken it to like a spiritual detox?
Yeah, well, you would, an entire month. And of a spiritual detox, which the entire Muslim world is doing. And that's also significant because you're not doing it by yourself. Not only are we all doing it together in Australia, but throughout the world. Every single Muslim is doing it.
Another thing, Sarah, of course, is the extra charity you give in Ramadan as well.
Definitely.
And because you're fasting, you have that degree of empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
And because charity is a purification of our wealth as well, so that's another source of purification for us.
Yeah. So you see that this entire month is about being in a detox, like you said, being in a spiritual retreat, call it what you will, but it is definitely not just a time of, you know, letting go of food and drink.
It's discovering
so
yourself,
much
so to
more.
speak.
Yeah, it is.
So it's in a way, it sort of highlights to us how our food and drink sort of has our personality on a chain. It's like a dog on a chain, and once that's gone, the real you is let go.
If I can share something with you, once I was fasting, because fasting is not just in Ramadan, you know, you can fast outside of Ramadan extra days. And I remember once I was fasting when my children were younger, and children and I had a bit of a feud, and before I knew it, I was in my walk-in pantry looking at something to eat, and I thought, but I'm fasting. And it's at that point that I realized a strong correlation that I turned to food at a time of frustration or comfort. Which is what we're discovering now.
What's the spiritual aim? At the end of Ramadan, what are we hoping to come out of after our 30-day spiritual retreat, detox, whatever? What's the aim? What should we hope to eat? Sorry. What would make Eid a celebration of maybe what we meant to have come out of?
Exactly. Eid is meant to be a celebration of, first of all, fulfilling a commandment by God, that you have fulfilled the entire fast. But furthermore, hopefully, if you have spent this time as a retreat, in a retreat, you have seen your inner self in a bit more clearer light, and that hopefully you've taken the time out to work on yourself that bit more. You know how we have here New Year's resolutions. I always say to my children and the girls that I work with, and that is have Ramadan resolutions. So what are you going to set yourself this Ramadan? What goal do you hope to achieve? And ask yourself by the end of Ramadan, have you achieved it? So the idea is looking in. We are a society that constantly looks out.
It's a real microscope on the self.
Definitely. And the idea also behind it in Ramadan that only God rewards your fasting. Because I don't know about you guys, but I remember being, you know, a 7-year-old where Mum was telling me to fast till just 12 o'clock and saying that I was gargling my mouth and deliberately put water in. The idea
We've all done it.
We've all done it. The idea is no one...
Well, Eid hasn't. Okay.
No one can reward you for your fasting, and there's no set amount. It's up to God, because no one can tell if you're fasting. I mean, you can fool your parents by praying and standing up and doing that, or wearing the headscarf, or other aspects. And fasting is also an internal battle, that it might be difficult for you, it might be easy for me, and it's really a personal journey.
Yeah, everyone's on different levels, and everyone achieves different things out of Ramadan. What you might get, I might get something completely different, but still better you will make you become a better person.
We actually are going to have to wrap it up there. Sorry, Guru. Everyone's going to call you that now. That was really interesting, and I think we've all come out of that a bit shinier. Stay with us after the break. We've got some more interesting discussions and more exciting info on Email of the Week. Stick around. Welcome back to Salam Cafe. That was really good. I feel
uplifted.
Yeah. All
I think that was really insightful, because it just put like a different spin on things.
Yeah, it is easy to get stuck up on the food and drink, and that's where it's at.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we can all get past that, and I can get out of the kitchen for Waleed's sake
Oh,
as much
come
as mine.
on, that's just rough.
Anyway, speaking of rough on Wal, Email of the Week.
Yes, Email of the Week. Fantastic segment. Sorry about last week. We didn't actually give you a new topic. Wasn't that silly of us? But it was on the website for those of you who have been following us on there, and really that's the best way to follow us. And since most people answer by going via the website, I don't think it would have mattered that we didn't mention it anyway. So, the question is and was, what is the one thing that you're always guaranteed to see at your Eid celebrations? And for me personally, it's double parked cars.
You mean at the mosque?
In the morning?
Yeah, at the mosque.
At
So,
the mosque.
so on the when we have Eid celebrations, early in the morning we have a big congregational prayer, and that to me has always been characterised by double parked cars. If there are not double parked cars, it's not the end of Ramadan, I'm afraid, and it's time to keep fasting. So, but I'm after yours.
End of the moon sighting.
That's right. I'm after yours, not mine. You just send me what you've got, and we'll probably read a winner out at some point, sometime in the future.
Police cars in double parked. Police cars usually turn up in the mornings to see all the double parked cars. It's like a haven.
If you were a parking inspector, I reckon you just get your year's quota. Just turn up then.
Well, they can mark their Islamic calendars by that.
They should.
Like, you know,
They probably do. The harvest. The harvest.
I know that from memory. I remember when I used to go to the mosque for Eid prayer. I can recall embedded cake and biscuit crumbs in the carpet as a signature of that Ramadan. You know, Eid happened here. And just by checking the patches.
The food is back.
The food. Yes, literally.
Speaking of Eid Day, because it's coming up, I want to know, how do we all celebrate? What are the different things we do with the fams? What are our traditions? What are the things we look forward to?
I can tell you what, Susan, all of us would probably have food as a major part of that.
Breakfast. We all get up and have breakfast. Feels a bit naughty, actually.
Yeah, Ramadan's not about food or not.
No, we're past that because now it's about spirituality.
That's right, yeah, nothing to do with it.
And having said that, I had iftar with Waleed today, and I've got to say he put some food away. Sorry, didn't bring that up.
He's making up for sahur because in the morning Susan doesn't have a funnel.
I know one of our Eid traditions is to get up early in the morning to go to the mosque for prayer, and one of the requirements for that is obviously that you dress well. But with 3 kids and running behind time madly, I tend to put the kids in their Eid clothes at night before they go to bed. That's just between you and me.
No, you're not the only one.
And all of our viewers as well at home.
No,
that's a really good idea.
So in the morning, it's just, you save that extra 15 minutes.
A little bit of crease here and there, but apart from that,
everyone's crease.
All set.
Well, they're going to crease it within 3 seconds anyway.
True, they're kids.
Exactly.
We normally have a barbecue, Walsh family. Enough an Eid barbecue comes out.
Has to involve cricket.
That's an Australianised Eid.
Yeah, yes it is. That's us.
Aussie fight.
No, it's not just a barbecue. Not only Australian.
Well, the next time they see us on Salam Cafe, they'll actually find out what we did do.
Yes, presents and whatnot.
Now, you had something about an Irish...
No, when I was in Dublin, I just remember going to the mosque on Eid, and the Imam announced after the Eid khutbah that they were going to the zoo, which is a strange place to go on for Eid. But having said that, you guys got married in a zoo, so...
That's a story for another time. I think we're getting the role right now. So happy Eid, everyone. Merry Ramadan and a happy new Eid to you all. Hope it's a great day with no double parked cars or infighting on the board at the mosque. We will be back next week with the winner, the grand winner of the email competition.
And food.
But it's not about the food. Salam alaikum.
Take care.